Now I'm recording on my camera and not just my OBS.
Because Tim's the main character, guys.
I'm not the main
He is
character. I'm only the editor, the poster, the...
main character. He's giving main character energy.
Would you say I'm giving, like, white savior energy? Because I don't want to be like that. I've been listening to Kendrick, I swear.
Right.
I've been listening to more Kendrick and less Eminem, I swear.
Right.
When I started reading, because I knew, I was like, I don't know if my brain's up to this episode tonight, because it's always been brewing a bit. For the most part, when people review bomb, it's like, I don't like this because this person is black or this person is gonna be gay in the show, so I'm gonna review bomb it, along with the Quartering and Nerdronic and Geeks and Gamers, like all those nerds. And some of that we will be talking about because some of that is definitely relevant here. I've actually found some instances of positive review bombing. People flooding something with positive reviews as a show of solidarity or support for something. And I think those are worth talking about too. Review bombing is kind of a newer phenomenon. Like, some of the earliest instances I could really find of it came from, like, the early 2000s. Back when Amazon was kind of first just getting on its feet. I mean, if anybody wants to say something before I pick an instance to discuss.
Well,
I thought you were going to keep talking. You were like, you were in the zone.
I can.
Jump cut.
I can if you want.
No,
going.
I'll say something. I got something in my head. Literally, when you were talking, there was a moment. You said early 2000s, and I was thinking about early 2000s. I was literally a kid, and I didn't know this until around this time in the 2020s about this being a thing. There's also a thing called not necessarily review bombing, but casting bombing, as in people already hating, like, something you cast this person into this and you haven't heard about the script, you don't even know, like, who else is in the movie, like,
I'm glad you said
that's a whole thing.
And this is one of the examples I definitely want to talk about. Downvoting trailers on YouTube because of something about the movie or the show or the game that people don't like. Snow White. Another one is Assassin's Creed Shadow. It's the first game taking place in Japan, and everyone's like, yeah, we're finally going to feudal Japan for Assassin's Creed. And then they made the main character Yasuke, or Yasuke, I'm not sure which way you say it, who...
And they're all like, boo.
Yeah, who is actually...
Not historically accurate.
It's the first... What's crazy is people started booing it because they're saying, I wanted to play as an Asian, not a black guy. And it's like...
So really, I care about diversity.
And they're like, no, it's not because it's a black guy. It's because it's not a Japanese person. It's also the first time in the entire franchise you play as someone that actually existed.
Wow.
And that's the
insane.
one they decided to go after and say historical inaccuracies. Was the first time you play as someone who actually existed. It was incredible. I saw one, I don't even remember which guy it was. I don't remember who it was, but it was a guy who was looking, he downloaded like the Chrome extension so you can see the dislikes on YouTube again. And he's watching the Shadows trailer just to see the dislikes and to see the count. And dude, I don't mean to sound crass, but this guy is like wet. He's like, we're doing it, guys. We're doing it. We're showing them. We're sticking it to them. We're showing it. We're hitting them in the wallet. We're hitting them where it hurts. And I'm like, Assassin's Creed has been around for 3 console generations. You're not taking it down. You're not going to take it down because you have to play as a black samurai. I'm sorry. You're just not going to do it.
It's going to be in the top 10 regardless for PS, like, sales. Like, without a doubt, it's going to be. Like, top 5 even.
Assassin's Creed is a titan.
You bring up the sales, especially on, like, the PS sales, right? And this whole thing of, like, these same people will, like, inadvertently cause the sales to, like, go up because they're going to bring all this attention to the game and also the kind of stuff to people who may not even necessarily be, like, in that realm, but they hear so many murmurs about it. It's like, oh, snap. And then they'll learn about it because you have to think about the whole ecosystem now with, like, YouTube and Twitch, right? There's all these... there's a React meta. I mean, we engage in the React meta too.
Kinda, yeah.
But they'll be ranting about it and they'll play it and be like, yeah, see, this is woke nonsense, right? And so that means that they bought it and they played it. So they like hate played it.
Right.
And they bought it. And a whole bunch of other people that are in their sphere will do the same thing so that they can take a big steaming dump on it, right? And more than likely they low-key like it, but they just won't tell their little buddies. Yeah. But then what you're going to have is you're going to have people that are just normal people or people that don't like those people and think that they're a joke. You're going to have all those people reacting to the content of those people, just being like, this is how stupid this is, yada, yada, so on and so forth. When I play the game, yada, yada, right? So you're going to have a whole nother layer of people that are going to be exposed to the game. There could be a loop that gets created. And it could be a negative feedback loop or a positive feedback loop. And I feel like, with the Assassin's Creed game that's going to come out, I think we could see potentially a little bit of that positive feedback loop, because what will happen is when people see, like if they see their creator making fun of those, people that are saying, oh, it's a black in the game, right? Making fun of those people, then they're
it's a black in a game.
Yeah, then they
don't go in games.
Right, they're gonna. Then those people are gonna find out about the actual history. Like, oh snap, Yasuke was like a real dude. Like that's legit, and they're gonna be like, yo, this is super cool. And then I already know cosplay and stuff is gonna happen, and yada yada, and so on and so forth.
Oh, hi Cat, hi Judy. Get him.
You say
attack
hi,
mode. Judy, attack directly. Yeah. Drain his life points. Some people are trying to be like, oh well, he wasn't really a samurai. He was a vassal. And to that I say, like, so what? In Assassin's Creed 2, you're best friends with Leonardo da Vinci, and you fly around in his gliding machine using heat from torches to go higher. Like, who cares if he was really a samurai or really a vassal or whatever? This is a series of games that has never really reveled in historic authenticity when it comes to its interpretation of characters. When it comes to like geography, it's pretty loyal to a lot of those things. So much so that I have another Assassin's Creed review bomb here for good reasons, actually. This was a positive review bomb for Assassin's Creed Unity. Assassin's Creed Unity, I believe, takes place during the Reign of Terror part of the French Revolution. But in 2019, when the Notre Dame Cathedral burned down, Ubisoft started to put the game out for free as kind of like some sort of show of support. And so the game got review bombed for the positive. And that game was usually notoriously known as one of the worst Assassin's Creeds that came out, but I guess it got fixed up a bit, and it kind of got like a second life.
That kind of reminds me of Cyberpunk, but it had a ton of bug issues. And then when they fixed it, like a year or so later, everyone's like, oh my god, this game's like one of my favorites. And it was always one of my favorites. I would be dedicated to play that game, even if it crashed every 20 minutes.
Yeah, if the day ever comes where I got to put my PS4 out to pasture, I'm going to put Cyberpunk in it just to make sure it's dead.
And actually, that brings me to a thought of, you know what? That movie wasn't that bad. It was actually kind of good. Not saying it was in my top tier for the MCU, but Captain Marvel. I recently rewatched that about maybe a month or so ago. I don't know why. Literally, it wasn't even preparation for this video. I just felt like watching it. And I'm like, dang, yeah, I'd give this like a 7.
Yeah,
I had a good time.
It's a fun watch. It's a good movie. It doesn't have any of this like anti-men, the strong women, no men. It's all about gay women, lesbians, and it's just
Look
like,
at her haircut in Endgame.
Yeah, it's like,
Get
what is
ready
going
for
on?
gay
Like,
women.
yeah,
No!
I'm like, I don't know how you got any of that from that movie. I did not get that at all. Like Samuel L. Jackson washing dishes. See, this is what the woke left wants to see. They want to see men emasculated. It's all about the women. The fact that y'all couldn't just watch the movie, oh my god, bro.
Well, and the movie didn't even come out. the movie didn't even come out yet, and people were already bombing it. And that's what
Right.
that movie is actually the one I believe that changed the game for Rotten Tomatoes, how it worked.
I did
Because
write
now
down. I didn't know that's what it was, but I wrote down about Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes. Yeah.
That's what changed the game, because back then you could literally do whatever you want, but now you have to verify that you purchased a ticket through Fandango or whatever other site,
Oh,
and say,
wow.
I bought this movie ticket, and here's my review. It's smart. I bet there's still a way for people to review bomb if they're really techie. Guarantee there is a way, because of the hate that a lot of men, and I don't want to just assume
Yeah.
it was all men. I bet there were some women out there
Nope,
who
not all men. You heard it here first, everyone.
Not all men. There were
Right.
some women that hated other women.
Guys, men's
Women
rights.
hate women too.
Men's rights is a serious
just-
discussion.
I can understand the aftermath, because she was very open. She was very open. Like, there was literally a red
Yeah.
carpet interview where she was like, I don't know if they want me back. Let the losers do that. Let the idiots, like the people on YouTube, let us act like that.
The reason people do them is because there have been moments of success with them. And we see now how highly sensitive Disney seems to be when it comes to what they think an audience is going to be critical of and what they think an audience is going to want. Now, they're sensitive to that, not in the right ways, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
doing it by like you know what, like this is something that the fans would really want. Let's get these people in here, those people in there. They really understand that. No, not doing that. Trying to be like, what's either the least offensive or what's the thing that we think is going to be strike on a certain side of a quote culture war, or what's gonna right? It's like it's that kind of thing.
Hi, Junie.
So the idea, that's crazy. So Captain Marvel, now granted, this was in the state of the Infinity War, so there's a lot of hype.
Yeah.
You get Captain Marvel right before Endgame. We just got Infinity War. We got Ant-Man and the Wasp 2, I think, and then Captain Marvel, then Endgame. The movie made $1 billion, like 1.1.
Yeah, did not fail.
But the sequel, The Marvels, which is also a sequel, I guess, to WandaVision and Miss Marvel, the show on Disney+, but really it's supposed to be a Captain Marvel 2, made $200 million.
That's
worldwide.
crazy. That's so bad.
It only made
And
86
worldwide is
million
insane.
domestically. Yeah, worldwide. That is the biggest flop for Marvel, I think. Yeah, for the MCU at least. That's bad.
Yeah.
To go from a franchise that's 1.1 billion to 200, you lost. That's a lot of cash.
Now, I haven't seen that movie, so
I haven't seen it either.
and Junie, this alarms Junie. Junie's afraid of what I'm about to ask. I'm a little bit afraid too.
No.
Joseph, you're the only one who's seen it here, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think the only reason it did bad numbers is because it wasn't as good?
I don't think it was as good. I'm not gonna lie, there were some moments where I grinned and I was smiling. I like Miss Marvel. People who don't like that character, I don't understand you. Miss Marvel, the Disney Plus series, it's a delight. I like Monica Rambeau from WandaVision. It's supposed to be Captain Marvel 2, but it's not a good Captain Marvel 2 movie. It's a Disney Plus series movie that wants to cram everything in, and people that just want to watch Captain Marvel 2 are not getting Captain Marvel 2. They are getting Captain Marvel meets Miss Marvel plus WandaVision.
Well, it's called
Slash,
The
let's all-
Marvels.
Yes,
Isn't it? It's
but
not
I don't
called
think
Captain Marvel 2. It's called
yes.
The Marvels, so they should be getting
which is
all three of them.
which they thought was a genius idea, but the reality is the general movie-going audience, and I mean it by that, movie-going audience, are not watching all the Disney Plus shows, which is a detriment to them. But I think the reason why Captain Marvel, the first one, was so successful is because you're introducing a very powerful new character, and it's the lead up to Endgame. One of the
yeah, I was
biggest
gonna
movies
say.
of all time.
I think the
like-
reason it was
Yeah.
so successful is because they teased it at the end of Infinity War, and that movie did
Yeah.
buku bucks. So everybody at the end, when they didn't know what that reveal even meant, they Googled it, and they were like, "Oh, that must mean there's going to be another movie. I guess I should see that."
I gotta watch
before I
it.
see-" Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why
I gotta
did
watch it. I
so
gotta know
well.
what happens. Yeah,
and I'll say this too, as far as like the review, as far as the bombing with with Captain Marvel and with the Marvels, I think that there was, again, so much hype around Captain Marvel on the like you said, Tim, like there was the teaser at the end, right?
Yeah.
Of the Avengers movie. So there was that. But then there's also the review bombing, right? So we have like this again, like that loop, that feedback loop that ends up happening, where I feel like a lot of people that saw a lot of the negative reviews and who they saw those negative reviews from were like, all right, I gotta go watch this for myself, right? And that kind of thing. And sometimes too, watching the movie and then seeing what other people are saying about it and be like, I do not remember it like that at all. Let me go watch it again, because I feel like no, I wasn't in that camp. I went, I saw it, I thought it was great. Then I found out a bunch of people said that it was like woke garbage or whatever, and I was like, yeah, you're an idiot. It's not. And that was just that. But I feel like a lot of people end up going into it because, again, there's a lot of mystique around Captain Marvel. Because also, like, Captain Marvel is not a character that's like been in the zeitgeist at all. Like, unless you're like a comic book person, right? Like, and you know that stuff. That's someone that, like, there's no lead up to that. There is no nothing. I'm paying this money for Disney Plus anyway.
Let's not also beat around the notion that there are plenty of creators out there, much like the ones who I mentioned earlier, and then some. Their career, they literally cash their checks in on being a contrarian, on being someone who is consistently dissatisfied with whatever is put forward, and at the most, they'll say, oh, this was a step in the right direction. It's almost like a form of entertainment to watch someone take out this frustration on a piece of media. There's one particular contrarian critic, and I use that term instead of like journalist or actual critic, because the footage I've seen of them reviewing the game as they're playing it is them playing the game incompetently. This puzzle's broken. The game doesn't work. I shot the thing with the arrow, and you go back and watch the footage and it's like they missed it. Like they missed the target completely. There are a few other ones I know I definitely want to hear. One of them, that's what that is. Okay, Joseph, I think you're going to know more about this one than I do, because I think I was just not plugged into it at the time. But in 2018, the YouTube Rewind.
Yeah, if I control Rewind, I would want Fortnite and Marquez Brownlee.
So every year, at the end of the year, YouTube does like a rewind, and they're like, here's our top creators, here's this, here's that. And then the 2018 YouTube Rewind was so notoriously hated that it overtook Justin Bieber's Baby as one of the most disliked videos on the entire platform.
I remember hearing about this because I was doing more YouTube stuff around that time. At one point, it used to be like, it was like prestigious, really, to get included in YouTube Rewind. And it's especially because, you know, again, like YouTube even in 2018 was a juggernaut. Don't get me wrong. There were certain places it wasn't at like how it is today.
Like a lot of people felt like YouTube wasn't doing a very good job highlighting not just like good creators in terms of quality, but also good creators in terms of just staying out of trouble in general.
Yeah.
I get some of it because controversy. I know that PewDiePie said certain words. And yeah.
I actually
he said certain words.
There's a review bombing story about that too. That doesn't even have
yeah?
anything to do with the rewind. Yep. The other incident, just to really focus on PewDiePie, he's like the specialty of our topics here. We know everything there is to know about PewDiePie. Apparently, the other time he said a word, he was playing a game called Firewatch. And Firewatch is a good game. I've played it before.
Yeah.
It's short. It's only a few hours long. It's super narrative focused. To my knowledge, it doesn't have like replay value. It's like a one and done. That was really good. Great writing, great voice acting, good short story. It's like the video game equivalent of a novella. But he said the word, I guess, during a stream of that. So the developers, Camposanto, put out takedown notices for the video because they didn't want him to be associated with the game. And so people review bombed the game. And I thought that was an interesting one because you can't like control who consumes your art. You can't control who consumes your product. Do you kind of feel like that was a little bit of, like you were saying earlier, Joseph, of execs being like, oh God, the image, what's going to happen to the image? Because I don't think anybody's going to watch that video and be like, wow, guess I'm not playing Firewatch.
I think if anything, it probably has more to do with not wanting a certain crowd interacting with your intellectual property. You know, once I create a thing, it's like now outside of me, and it's now in the world.
But how do you regulate that though? Because
I mean, you can't.
As far as like
yeah, you
the
can't.
statistics go, they're just another consumer.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with you. Whatever an artist decides to do, like, I respect that because it's their intellectual property, you know, and whatever the creators of that thing decide to do, that's well within their right. I may agree or disagree, or rather I may have done something different if I was in their situation.
I found something I didn't realize. He didn't say the word while he was playing that game. He said it while he was playing PUBG, and then the developer came out and said he was going to do DMCA takedowns of him playing Firewatch.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So okay, so then that 100% seals it for me. Yeah, it's like them just straight up the dev just straight up taking a stance and being like, oh yeah, like I don't want any of my stuff associated with or having any sort of like commentary whatsoever by someone that's gonna say just like that at any given time. Like I don't want.
That's when it got review bombed.
Yeah,
is when he came out and said that. The game wouldn't have been review bombed if the developer hadn't done that. But it may also have brought a new wave of attention to the game. And then people played a pretty good game.
Yeah.
There's a few other ones to go through here. One I added last minute just because I found it kind of funny. The next one I have is a real oddball. This is a very strange one. And I know 2 out of 3 of us are more kind of in the anime scene than others. I haven't seen a lot of new stuff lately. I've never seen this show. But there was a case of review bombing an anime in the positive to promote it. So there was a show that came out in Japan called, I don't know if I'm saying this right, and this is probably going to scare you a little bit, Joseph. I mean, it scared me a little bit, but then I was like, anime does stuff like this. The show was called Ishizoku Reviewers, Interspecies Reviewers. Now, the premise of this show is that it takes place in a land where there's like elves and dwarves and gnomes and fairies and angels and demons and minotaurs and centaurs and like all kinds of mythical creatures. Also, prostitution's legal. So the idea of the show is that this group of people go from brothel to brothel and review their experiences being with different types of women.
We're on a quest
to have sex with every species of chick there is.
through jungles,
And seas.
in deserts,
On snowy peaks.
in dungeons.
High and low, near and far, we're out for adventure.
They review how good of a time they had. What's it like to be with a succubus? What's it like to be with a centaur? What's it like to be with a fairy? What's it like to be with an angel? What's it like to be with a demon? What's it like to be with an octopus girl? What's it like to be with, like, just all this crazy stuff. Funny enough, haven't seen the show, haven't read the comic, so I'm going off of what I'm reading from people who've consumed the source material before. Apparently, the comic it's based off of is actually not that graphic. Doesn't even show a nipple. Doesn't even have, like, sex scenes. It just kind of shows, like, apparently, like, before and after, and if they survived or not, and how they're feeling, and how they're doing. But, and I mean, it's a comedy. This is not, like, a serious...
Right.
This is not, like, a serious study on human sexuality. It's not. The English dubbing company Funimation said we're going to dub it and it's going to be uncensored because apparently the show was more graphic than the source material. So they said we're going to do it, and then Funimation got it, and when they actually saw it, they were like, we don't want to do this anymore.
See? You're the only one who rated the elf higher, bro.
I'm appalled.
Well, all right. Time for me to go get balls deep in Mitsu. Suck it!
They dubbed the first couple of episodes and then backed out of it and just tore it off of their website completely. And the fans were like, you said you were going to do it. What gives? And like a YouTuber got involved in kind of making the story a little bigger too. And so a bunch of people, to bring attention to the show, went on to kind of like, it's not like as big as IMDb, but it's a site called My Anime List. You go there, you make an account, you vote for what animes you like or whatever, and they voted it for a time, but I don't think anymore, up to the number 2 anime of all time.
That's
They
insane.
upvoted it to the number 2 anime of all time to bring the show positive attention. From what I've read, people say it's funny. Some people say it's like sex positive. I mean, the premise is strange.
Yeah.
I think only in anime could you even get away with that premise. Only.
Yes.
Like, but the show got review bombed positively as a result because people felt like the show was slighted by a production company that said we're going to bring it forward to the audience in its uncensored format. I thought that was a very interesting one. That was a very, very odd one. And one that could only happen in the world of anime. I don't think that would see an iota of sunlight in a live action form. Not a chance. Another very famous incident of review bombing, and I know Joseph's going to have a lot to say about it. Richard, how aware are you of how The Last of Us 2 goes? Are you aware of the plot?
No.
All right. You're watching the show, though, aren't you?
No.
Oh, I thought you were.
Cool. We'll say spoilers then to warn people.
Yeah.
I totally thought you were.
Spoilers. And Richard loves spoilers, and I'll be
Yes.
brief about it because of time.
Yeah.
I love the game. I'm actually replaying the first one. I'm already 7 hours deep, and this is like my 10th run. I really didn't get the hate because of Abby. That was the biggest thing that people were saying, Abby and what happens to Joel. And they go in tandem because, spoilers, gonna say this for people, and it's probably gonna happen. My theory is that it's going to happen at the end of season 2.
Yeah, probably.
End of season 2. I don't know why there's freaking balloons, but yay! Joel dies! Happy birthday, Joel! You're dead.
Right.
The moment that I heard Pedro Pascal was casted, I was like, I hate you, because I'm going to cry I already cried like a baby in the game because you're so attached to these characters after playing them for like 11 hours. In the second game, what pisses people off, and PewDiePie is famous for this video, it's like, what the frick? He like pauses the game right after Abby, this strong buff female, which now I guess it's controversial that the girl isn't buff in the live action form. So it's like, are you guys mad that she's buff? Or you're mad that now she's not buff?
I'll get to it. I'm actually really glad you said that because that puts another little bit of a dimension on what I want to say. But
because to me, I'm like, I could care less if she was freaking yoked. Which guess what, guys? Women can work out too. I was at the gym.
Wait, they can't.
Women, they can lift weights and they can have bigger muscles than you.
Bullshit.
That's probably why you're sitting on your cat.
Bullshit.
Like,
I'm strong.
it doesn't
Rock, paper,
make sense.
scissor me right now. Rock, paper. Any woman, rock, paper, scissor me right now. Let's also put the full context of on the table for The Last of Us Part 2 is that I think it was at least a couple of months before the game came out, the fact that Joel dies in the story was leaked.
Yeah.
It was leaked before the game came out. So when the game came out, it was immediately review bombed before people really even had the chance to play it. So the avenue for people to review it was open, and even if they didn't own it, they'd review bomb it based on the leaks. The consumer base didn't have a chance to fully react to the game in an organic manner because one of the biggest plot points in the entire campaign was spoiled for them. And then, partway through the game, the perspective shifts and you play as his killer. And, learn more about why she did it. Because honestly, to be fair,
it's gutsy.
I don't think her reason is bad. In the grand scheme of things, in a world like that, I don't really think it was. And some people, see, the game didn't come out, so they saw Abby's design, and a lot of people assumed Abby was trans because of how muscular she was. So it started going around the internet that Naughty Dog is super woke because some buff trans girl kills our hero. Guess what? The game came out, she wasn't trans, and nobody said a damn thing about how they were wrong. Nobody.
Yeah,
Nobody
they never do.
said it. No, of course they never do. So for me personally, I didn't care about playing as this character that killed him. Didn't care about that at all. That didn't bug me. The only thing that really bugged me about the game is that the game has a moral message of the dangers of revenge and how poisonous it can be. And the only time that the character, Ellie, finally realizes that revenge is a bad thing is before she kills Abby, but after she's killed all of Abby's friends.
Damn.
It's a brutal story, man.
Hundreds of people over the course of this campaign, but for some reason, it's when she finally gets to Abby that she's like, you know what? Revenge is bad. You can go. I'm just gonna let you go.
But you're not bringing up an
could
important
have figured
fact.
that out a little sooner before you killed so many people.
But the important fact that happens is like when you see Abby and the state that she is in, it is tragic. It is horrible.
Yes.
She's like, she's depleted. Her muscle is completely gone. She's essentially
gaunt. She's gaunt, really.
Yeah. She's just not, like, she's not herself. I think that also helped on the emotional level for us as the viewer playing as Ellie in that moment to find sympathy. Because I think the thing that was so unique about the game is that we're obviously all pissed off. We're like, we don't want to really play the game. Like, our first initial reaction is when that moment happens, we're pissed. What the heck? I love Joel. I'm only 5 hours into the game or 4 hours. That is an okay reaction, and that is the point.
So,
like, you should be pissed off.
And Ellie is a lesbian. So a bunch of people were like, well, great. Now I have to play as a lesbian and a trans. It's like, oh my god.
Which they were already hinting, I think, in the first game that she was already was already gay.
She was already gay.
And it's like
she was already
and
gay.
It's like,
and now you have to. So a lot of people were just like, oh, it's woke, dog. It's like, all right, just don't even try.
It's like, did you not pay attention? Did you not see the extra bonus level or something where you get context of what happened to her? So, to me, that is so dumb.
Well, I mean, they can live with that because two girls making out is hot, but if one of them is trans, not hot. That's how it goes. You gotta
Can't do it.
You gotta crack the formula, Joseph. Well, you play as Ellie in the first game for a chunk of it too, during the winter portion.
When that moment, and it's great. And I didn't hear anybody complaining when that happened. I feel like that actually elevated the game even more.
Yeah, that was a good part of the game. That was an intense part of the game. Another one, this one's super quick because this one's actually kind of sweet, is a game studio called Tango. They created games like Hi-Fi Rush and The Evil Within. And when Tango got closed down, people review bombed those games positively. I played Evil Within. It's basically like, it's the same guy who made Resident Evil 4, Shinji Mikami. He did some Silent Hill work as well. Evil Within, super fun. It's also very difficult the first time you go through it. Every bullet counts. Play it. Super fun. Another one was the Batwoman series. This one, I feel like is just so dumb. Because a lot of people who do review bomb it say, well, I review bomb it because it's bad. Okay. Tons of shows are bad. But not every show that's bad stars an actor who also plays a lesbian. Don't try to, like, hide why you're, and then most of those dudes go and Google image it anyway. So, I mean, give me a break.
What was her name again? I mean, but
what was her name? Helldivers 2, which came out on the PlayStation 5, and then when it came out on the PC, everyone said, yeah, it's coming out on the PC. That's awesome. And then Sony said, but you got to log in and hook up your Sony account to it for it to work. That didn't go over too well. They rolled that policy back so fast, it would make your head spin. I have 3 others here. One is for a movie I did see. I saw the movie Music. Sia's movie. It was a movie about a autistic girl and her older sister trying to make life work. And they cast a gal who, to our knowledge, is not neurodivergent, playing a very offensive stereotype of someone who's like
this
really...
movie!
Yeah.
This movie!
Yeah, Leslie...
I remember all the controversy.
Leslie Odom Jr. was in it, the guy who played Burr in Hamilton. And man, you gotta wonder, like, if partway through filming he was like, oh, if you can't tell, I'm supposedly high functioning. No one ever told me outright. They just said it's the 90s, your kid's broken, no receipts, here you go, take him back. That one got review bombed because everyone was like, that's not how this goes. Another really fun one is Kirk Cameron, our Lord and Savior, Kirk Cameron.
Behold, the atheist's nightmare.
The maker of so many high-quality, faith-based productions, put out a movie called Saving Christmas.
Oh, God, yeah.
Put out a thing saying, like, telling everyone, because it was getting bashed on Rotten Tomatoes, because apparently it's just not a good movie, which is not a surprise to me. Faith-based films have been notoriously low quality for decades.
Hey, you really stepped it up this year. You got Santa Claus. Where'd you find him? What do you have to pay a guy like that? It's Uncle Bill.
Yeah.
And so he went on Twitter. I don't know if it was Twitter or something. He went online and he posted, hey, this movie's getting a bunch of, like, bad reviews. Like, go on Rotten Tomatoes, boost it up, and show people that we really want good, entertaining family films out there. And unfortunately for Kirk, folks like Kirk are not the only one who saw that tweet. And so the movie got bombed even more. It did even worse.
1.3 on IMDb.
Yep.
1.3.
Dang.
The last one that I have written down is the one I mentioned earlier, where a whole bunch of people didn't realize the show was making fun of them for 4 years, which is after season 4 of The Boys came out.
Yep, that was a lot of hate, actually.
Well, because the show, I will say this about the show. All it really did was drop the pretenses.
It made it more apparent of what they were talking about, where it was like, I wonder what you're talking about right now.
It just made it more obvious what they've been talking about for 3 seasons before that.
It wasn't as subtle, and I will say that was an issue that I did have, where it's like, I don't have an issue with you making fun of this, like, go for it, but be better on a creative level. That was my issue with season 4, because seasons 1 through 3 were great. Season 4 was a bit of a step down, but I was
kind of okay with the pretenses coming down, because to me that, like, fits the show. The show is completely absurd. Have you seen The Boys, Rich?
No.
No?
No.
Today.
No. Yeah.
It's completely absurd.
No, I've heard it's fantastic though.
It is very good. It is good.
Yeah, you should just wait, because it'll end in season 5, which is coming out next year, so you just should binge it next year. Just binge all 5 seasons.
It's on HBO, right?
Prime.
Prime. Amazon Prime.
My bigger issue...
which is exclusive rights from The Chosen, now from Prime. Little plug-in for The Chosen. Random note.
My bigger issue with season 4 was, like, it felt like every episode they had to find a way to cover somebody in blood. They had to, like, make up a way for someone to just be head to toe covered in blood.
That's The Boys, man. That's The Boys.
That wasn't every episode.
Gotta be bloody.
Though. Like, people were just exploding left and right this season. There was, like, more subtlety to it. I never thought it was enough subtlety to not know who the show was poking fun at. Like, I never thought it was so much subtlety that you couldn't tell what cards the show was putting down. At one point, I'm trying to remember exactly, but there's one part where it's, like, going through a party with, like, a bunch of campaign donors towards, it's about, like, these 7 superheroes. They own a company. The company's like this world's equivalent of Stark Tower, the Avengers Tower, and the company's called Vought. And Vought puts on like a campaign fundraiser. They're starting to get into politics or whatever. They're figuring out new ways of doing fun. And one of the donors who's there is talking with one of the women who works there about how a child can't be conceived through like, talk about dropping all the pretenses. So the show goes on for 3 whole years, and only when the show has a character who says, yeah, you can't conceive through do all of these folks be like, wait a minute, they're talking about me. I'm like, it took you this long?
Well, the creator literally said that he didn't care. He was like, yeah, I'm making fun of Trump. He basically said, he was like, I don't really, like, if you don't like my show, okay, F
Whatever.
off. That's like he's like at that point, he's like, I'm already here. I already got my last season planned ahead. And honestly,
Yeah.
kudos to him. He's being open and honest. But there's a way to do it. But I cannot deny, I was still entertained. But the review bombing on that side of the political spectrum, that made sense. Not saying I agree with it, but it made sense because they were like, wait a second.
And then, that took another contrarian content creator and put them under the microscope. A content creator who goes by Critical Drinker, who reviewed it without watching it.
Which I've heard he's done with several things. A lot of people in that sphere do that. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And the thing that stinks is like there are some videos, and I will be honest, there are some videos that I will be like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of other ones where I'm like, gosh dang it, I'm actually rooting for you, man, to like stop being so hateful. Because every once in a while he'll have one Drinker Recommends video, and it's actually, wow, I did not think you were gonna like that because there's lesbians in that one. Like,
Joseph,
he's automatically gonna hate it.
Again, you gotta know the formula. 2 girls making out is hot. 2 guys making out is gross. And if one of them is trans, no matter if they're trans guy or trans girl, it's gross. You gotta crack the formula, Joseph. That's why he liked it.
I bet he liked Amelia Perez.
Content creators like that, Amelia Perez is like a bed and breakfast for them. Because the movie genuinely was problematic in its representations of Mexican culture and trans culture. But they can also look at it and say, oh, look, this is what the lefties want. This is what the wokies want. And even the lefties and the wokies are like, yeah, this was not a good movie. Here's what I can understand. I can understand if a movie you're watching, because this happened with Roger Ebert. There's been a couple of times where he walked out of a movie because it was just too vile and gave it 0 stars. That works for that because it was a movie. Critical Drinker has already seen 3 seasons of this show, so he can't really fairly compare it to the rest of what the show has put out.
That'd be different if he like gave 20 minutes to the first episode or he tapped out after the first 2. I think if you have a feeling towards a show, you will get the feeling of the show within the first 2 or 3 episodes. But if you're already knee deep in this world and you're gonna just stop because it gets a little too blunt with what they're talking about, I think that says more about the person than the actual show.
One of the top comments on his review is, I will now write a thesis on a subject I quickly Googled. At some point, as more review bombing happens, this is a topic I see us revisiting for sure. But I think one of the things I honestly find the most fascinating about it is how many different reasons people have to do. I mean, it does kind of boil down to a little bit of a binary, but the things that bring people to that binary path, I think, are pretty interesting.
Also, on an end note,
Oh boy.
Sonic. Thank God that got bombed. So we can have a better version. No, Sonic.
Don't you remember? Yeah, that original.
That's right.
Lord.
That's when bombing can help. When bombing can help.
Some people have a little bit of a conspiracy theory that it was on purpose. That they made Sonic ugly on purpose and then fixed it to bring more attention to the movie.
That's some of the greatest marketing and
If
the
that's
weirdest
true-
way to say
time.
that. It's some of the best marketing
If that's
ever because
true, that's incredible. But I think one of the funniest things about that is it became so popular that Ugly Sonic is a character in a completely separate movie.
in a Disney Plus movie.
In a Disney Plus movie, Ugly Sonic is like a pivotal character in like a Chip and Dale Rescue Ranger movie or something super bizarre.
See, kid, if you learn nothing from watching this episode today or listening to this episode today, the biggest takeaway is this: if ever you want to enact change, make sure to drop a good bomb. And with that,